Hello, everyone. How are you doing this week? Can you hear me? Do I sound all right? I'm in a different location. So funny, it went from 0 people watching to 8. That's exciting. Hi, Reverend Tommy. Hi, Bill. Are you getting ready for Star Wars Day? It's been a week. It has been such a week. Silky smooth and sultry, loud and clear. Excellent. Good, good, good. I'm drinking some digestive tea. It's got fennel or some shit in it. I don't know. But I was feeling a bit emotional, so I had myself an entire box of mac and cheese. Choices were made. Choices were made. I do not regret them. So, hello, Sally. Hello, Johnny O'Twitch. It's been a week. It's been a hard few days, and but I had a wonderful Beltane and International Workers' Day. I hope you did too. Hello, Kathy with a K. International Workers' Day was lovely. I had a gig, good paying gig, and I know I'm supposed to take the day off, but really what the day is about is work with dignity. So artwork is work, darlings, just like sex work is work. And so here we are. We're going to wrap a bit early today because if you are a patron of mine, then we have a midnight tea room scheduled at midnight Eastern tonight in exactly 57 minutes on Zoom. We're moving it over to the Zoom platform so we can actually see one another. Or just hang out and have a bit of a chat and a hello. It's like the restaurant at the end of the universe. And that is for patrons only. So this evening, well, I'm in my feels, and here we are. I've switched it. It's usually green in the egg, and now it's going to be red for this week. Who knows? I'm just trying to get you used to the fact that this show is going to go on the road, and there will be different locations. But I'm happy to see all of you. So this week, we have space opera, or Hitchhiker's Guide. And then there's going to be a little bit of a preview of some fan fiction that was sent in. But I'm not going to read the whole fiction publicly. I will record it, however, and give it to its author to do with what you will. But because it's Star Wars themed, and tomorrow is Star Wars Day, I thought it would be appropriate to give you a bit of a tease. Lady Loki, hello, hello. Home is where the stream is. Beltane was good. Great. So what do you guys want this evening? The bulk of the evening will either be space opera or the ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide. How shall we continue? Drop your vote. Drop your vote. Oh, Bill, by the way, send me your email? No, I'll find another way. Or you can drop me a DM on Facebook with your email address. It's opera time. All right, space opera. You guys are loving the space opera. That makes me very happy to share this insanity with you by Catherynne and Valente. As usual, your support means so, so much to me, and it means I can get back on the road if I have more tips and patrons and live that Glamour Hobo life, because artwork is work, dear ones. And you can ask Johnny O'Twitch how they're enjoying the patronage. Did you get your stuff in the mail, by the way? Oh, okay, Lady Loki. We have we're a few chapters into space opera. It's cray. It is cray. The other people can drop you information about it. But basically, it's Eurovision in space for the fate of humanity, because the real crux of the universe is who is people and who is meat. Oh, I haven't gotten it yet. I sent it last week. It was supposed to arrive by May. I blame Trump ruining the post office. So, and the Suez Canal. So who is meat and who are people? How can you express sentience? How can you express that you are worthy of living and interacting, and that you won't be dangerous to others, that you can value life? And the universe decided, after almost obliterating itself, that they decided a song contest would be the answer. All right, great. I highly recommend that if you don't have your own copy, go out and buy it from your local seller for full price, or if you're into it, buy it used. But support your local bookstore and support Catherynne and Valente for her work. All right, so we're on chapter 4, I think. Yes, all right. The giant anglerfish flamingo singing aliens have just arrived. They've told everyone about the contest. Decibel Jones apparently is on the list of people who can compete. And yes, thank you, Reverend Tommy, for mentioning that the last couple of episodes are up on Twitch, so you can catch up. And on my YouTube channel. I should probably list them. Sing, little birdie, sing. I should probably sing in this episode. Interestingly, a remarkably high percentage of the Homo sapiens population opted for a fondly remembered waitress or bartender when that tall drink of otherworldly water offered them their choice from a nostalgic buffet of comforting, familiar voices. I've already read this. We're on chapter 5. Why didn't you tell me, Internet? Glamour Hobo commands. I don't know what that means, but it sounds very exciting. Are we on chapter 5? Yes, chapter 5. We wear spring clothes in the wintertime. The first Absolute Zeros show was held on the hot, vast, dark second floor of the Hope and Ruin pub in Brighton, home of Pound a Pint Tuesdays, the toughest pub quiz in the Anglosphere, which featured questions chosen by anyone who could prove to the MC that they were tits deep in a doctoral dissertation. An open mic night that bashed up the conceptual boundaries of the terms open, microphone, and indeed night with reckless abandon. And Archibald Arthur Gormley, owner, operator, and the oldest functioning alcoholic in the Eurozone. Gormley was ancient already when the Kinks had the grand idea of a well-respected bowl haircut. He was yelling at punters to get off his stool in those fat and rosy days when the place was just called Hope, and the bit about ruin was but a twinkle in the Commonwealth's economic eye. In his smug middle age, he saw Bowie come in for a pint when he was still a slip of a little thing called Davy, playing weddings in a three-piece suit, and in the spotty, nervous face of the future Grand Duke of Glam, Archibald Arthur Gormley yawned. As the band's designated organized person, Ort St. Ultraviolet had chosen the Hope and Ruin for their debut because, despite their mind-smearingly cool sound, actual London venues had proved mystifyingly indifferent towards smashing rookie acts of unadulterated musical genius, as they were towards all bright-eyed, irresponsible, coiffed kids fresh off the home editing software suite, and really, anybody whose drinks they might have to comp for the night, if they could possibly pull it off without offending any particular glowering council housing castaway who might, by some horrible accident, turn out to be the future of rock and roll. As Musad Atala, the talent manager for Robot Custard, the hottest indie stage in South London, told his interns, gatekeeping is a noble calling, much more delicate than fannish enthusiasm or hipster disdain. An uncurated open mic was as good as a neon sign blinking out. I am a helpless, fuzzy duckling wannabe taste master with no taste to speak of and unguarded taps. Please assault my ears and abuse my generous nature at your earliest convenience. But velvet ropes that never opened would have to be replaced by video poker machines and a second-hand snooker table within the year. Ort had to go all the way to Brighton to find an open mic that didn't have a positively gladiatorial audition process and a wait list as long as the M1. In case you're wondering, Brighton is about an hour by train from London. It is a different city, fully a different city. This careful, velvet aloofness of any scene accessible via London public transport was the third most significant factor in the meteoric rise and awkward plummeting faceplant of Decibel Jones and the Absolute Zeros. They were all the cooler and more seemingly exclusive for being hard to find, hard to see, and easy to talk about to everyone you met. The second factor was a woman wearing a crocheted dress and a mushroom bob haircut while trying to chat up Archibald Arthur Gormley when Urt, Mira, and Des started to tune up for their first real set at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Ooh, that is rough. A set that consisted of 2 songs they'd written on a series of increasingly moist Acme Archibald gelato napkins and an upbeat champagne bubble cover of War Pigs by Black Sabbath. Oh my God. The tragedy is real. The first was that, against all laws of interpersonal and artistic probability, the Absolute Zeros, once upon a time, were incredibly, irresistibly, downright irritatingly good. If you'd looked up that afternoon from your admittedly absorbing IPA toward the stage of the Hope and Ruin, you wouldn't have seen anyone you'd recognize as Decibel Jones. Not from those rickety singleton tables as ringed with pint-glassed condensation as an ant's arse. Not from Archibald Arthur Gormley's cracked leather stool as he cringed away from the aggressively jolly Yorkshire bird hovering at him with her ginger 1970s mushroom bob hair, so disturbingly unchic that it came around to being almost, if not quite, punk. Not even from the back of the joint, for whom standing room was only but a distant dream. There was no vintage McQueen then, no style consultants to tell them no. Mira Wonderful Star had cut and stitched and remixed the contents of their local Oxfam's damaged and as-is bin like a garage mashup track. In a deconstructed ballroom gown, whacked up out of a spandex slutty C3PO costume, a silver brocade Christmas tree skirt, and a gauzy black shower curtain with metallic blue applique roses all over it. Mira Wonderful Star sat at a drum set the quality of which wavered between obnoxious child's toy and legitimate rubbish, with a retro trash white 1984 Casio mini keyboard propped up to her left on an empty Boddington's keg. Her uncle Takumi had given the drums to her for Christmas when she was 13, purely to fulfill what he saw as a solemn duty to embody the archetype of the cool uncle as depicted in the 20th century domestic comedies he loved annotating and catalogued the way some people catalog exotic butterflies. His efforts having been made somewhat more difficult by the fact that cool Uncle Takumi had raised his beloved embodiment of the rebellious niece from the age of 4. I just want to say that outfit sounds amazing, and I know someone who's right above me in this house at this moment who definitely wears a Christmas tree skirt as real clothes. Just saying. Ort Saint Ultraviolet, not yet the man of 1,000 instruments, fiddled with a crappy plastic capo and his grandmother's begrudgingly lent 100-year-old concertina in an alleged outfit consisting of dismembered lady's red sequined blazer, slung low, mercilessly tight trousers that had been a wine-stained wedding gown only a few hours before, and a cricket jumper with the name George embroidered lovingly on the hem in purple thread with a jaunty bat on either side. Oh, someone's mom made him that. Decibel Jones stood at the mic stand shirtless, petrified, in his own set of what Mira firmly believed was the only correct type of trousers for a rock star, treating hip bones on a boy like cleavage on a girl, and choking off blood supply like a pre-suffrage corset. Dess's pair had pretty clearly been someone's mum's idea of a formal St. Patrick's Day frock in its previous life. All green satin paisley and vintage 80s gold accent chains. Over it all, but under the black plastic bat wings, he wore the one thing you'd recognize from the Space Crumpet album art. The one article of clothing that survived the transition from coming home smelling of potatoes and rancid oil to smelling of cigarettes and his own cologne brand and barely coming home at all. From Dinesh Jalo to Decibel Jones. A long, flared, faux fur-lined, lightly distressed rose and cream aristo coat from a local community theater production of Les Liaisons Dangereuses. Mira had unstrung a heap of dollar store fake-colored pearls to edge the collar, sleeves, and hem, doused the fur with her corner chemist's apocalyptic oil spill number 4 hair dye, and after that night, Des never washed the Technicolor Dreamcoat once. He named it Robert. Oh. Unfortunately, pearls and sequins and metallic applique roses reflected almost none of the already miserly light from the Hope and Ruin's deeply basic rig. Shadows loitered where no experienced stage manager would let them. An unkind white spotlight washed out those 3 terribly young and hungry faces, dappled by the corpses of a couple of spiders that had gotten stuck between the gel and the lamp around the time when disco was cool. The air outside shimmered with muggy afternoon heat. The stage was wholly, utterly, indescribably black, criss-crossed with the stellar cartography of 1,000 hopeful, handsome smolders, all made of all the same needy stuff, scraping their boot heels, dragging their guitar stands, and dumping their hearts into a sound system more suited to calling bingo than calling London. It was, to be perfectly honest, a depressingly bleak sight. Far bleaker than a lifetime spent working in air-conditioned cubicles or watching a kebab slowly revolve in front of a space heater like a sweaty meat planet, or ringing up an eternity of cough suppressants in your dad's tiny one-location drugstore after he finally gives up the till. Far bleaker than a mere total absence of anything to look forward to. They were a study in absurdity, a near psychotic commitment to an aesthetic no one had had a chance to laugh at yet. I've absolutely played this gig. Decibel Jones wrapped his fingers around the shaft of the mic and opened his mauve and glitter-painted mouth. Hey, hiya. How's everyone doing tonight? This afternoon. The bartender blew his nose on the tail of his shirt. 6 other open micers sat in the front row, 6 soda waters slowly decarbonating before them, all dressed in earnest, sincere, salt-of-the-stage flannel and jeans. An on-trend uniform of off-the-rack authenticity, tailored perfectly to the current white-knuckle zeitgeist of homespun artisanal emotions, strung on banjos of working-class vulnerability. All trying their hardest to look as though they had what is the sentence? I'm skipping it. A cashier from Ladbrokes chomped down on a curry and broke his eye away from his phone. 3 or 4 unemployed 20-somethings pranged darts into a wall without looking over or lowering their voices. Cool Uncle Takumi looked up from editing his new article on the quest for the divine in John Candy's oeuvre and clapped with football mum supportiveness from a respectful distance in case a legion of front row fans miraculously appeared, fashionably late. You're holding back on your old Gormer, a truly Stygian horror drone buzzed out of Archibald's Arthur Gormley's tracheotomy valve, which his wife had called his smoke hole before she left him for that chap who ran all those marathons in his 70s. What do you come here for if you won't give me full legal pour? We're doing splendidly, darling, called the lady with the ginger mushroom bob, a music critic done in by the death of print journalism whose name was Lila Poole. You look a treat. Right. Yes, so, we are... Decibel Jones coughed. Not himself yet. Not 20 feet tall in Piccadilly. Not praised to death by The Guardian. Not flirting with Ruby the American waitress, nobody's messiah. Not anyone at all. Not even properly Decibel Jones yet. Last night, they'd been the Mobius hips. This morning, they'd definitely decided on the thing. And then Mira had chucked that one between. She said a scotch to steel her nerves and a Midori to light up her inside, and suddenly he couldn't think of what they'd come up with instead, couldn't think of the lyrics to Raggedy Dandy, still so new that they ached, couldn't think of what train they were meant to take home or what time he had to be at the shop tomorrow, couldn't think of anything but the unlovely mating honks of those 20-something dartheads battering his cochlear well-being, honks that, if he was down a dark street or on a playground, usually meant he was about to get shit kicked out of him for being the mincing little ponce or whatever vivid racial slur they had in stock that week. Words and phrases bobbed to the surface of their monotonous posturing pub-step drone. Arsenal, piss up, I know a bloke, it's your round, it's not mine, I don't care what she says, fucking Weston, mate. Des froze. And his whole life nearly threw an axle and tipped itself into a ditch full of Mr. Five Stars fryer oil. He felt ridiculous. In these green, ugly paisley trousers and stupid glitter bat wings and half a discontinued makeup rack. Not Robert, of course. Robert was fine, Robert was grand, Robert was right. But all he had up Robert's perfect sleeve was 2 rubbishy songs that were more gimmick than the white-hot fire of real music. The sort of music people would play over and over in their bedrooms at night, the sort that scrambled up your senses so wonderfully that you laughed and cried into your pillow at the same time, the sort of music that felt like you'd always known it, even though you'd never heard it before. The songs you'd put on a mixtape and press into someone's hand, saying, this says how I feel better than I ever could. Additionally, standing up there in mascara and platform heels with plastic goldfish in the soles was no way to not get the shit kicked out of you for being a mincing little ponce. In his mind, he'd thought of them playing the witching hour at a robot custard under magenta and ultramarine lights to a crowded dance floor full of yearning students, not hipsters, but tricksters, grooving on the wub-wub bass line of the whole throbbing universe, sucking MDMA and hope out of locally sourced glow sticks. What was magical at 2 in the morning was tawdry and cheap and dangerous to your general health at 2 in the afternoon. They were supposed to look like those acoustic, heartfelt flanelliers at the front tables with their carefully stubbled jawlines, sipping their responsibly preset soda waters, mentally calculating whether to soulfully close their eyes at the key change or at the big note so it really looked like they believed in love after layoffs at a mill they'd never know, or anything but high-end lofts for ease. That was what was hot right now. That was the record labels wanting to hear. Those nice white boys with their pre-distressed jeans and pre-distressed hearts, mumble crooning artificial grit. Nobody understood what the Absolute Zeros believed so hard they couldn't even wedge it into their lyrics yet. The world had gotten gritty enough. The only thing left to do in all that dirt was to shine. But Des wasn't shining. He was just a dumb tart in someone else's frock, staring down failure like you could ever make failure blink. Failure was here before you, and she'll be here after you, and she won't even notice you go. Fucking hell, what was he doing? He was going to fail right now in front of Mira and Ort, the only people in his life who'd never seen him behind a counter, only like this, the way he wanted to always be, his Archibald Gelato notion, his Acme brand instant tunnel to the future. He was going to be little Danny forever, 7 years old, wearing all Nani's silk scarves all at the same time, his face covered so proudly in lilac lipstick doodles he'd drawn himself, standing in the middle of a lounge room, singing along with Marvin the Martian like it was straight up Wagner, so eager to please Nani, so thrilled to show her he really could sing like the people on TV, dying to be the utter focus of her attention. And they'd all ignored him. That old Blackpool flat was a dingy mirror of this Brighton pub. No one said anything. His sisters had snickered and whispered and texted furtively, most likely telling everyone they knew what fuckery was going down before their very eyes. His oldest brother had kicked a soccer ball expertly into the side of his big Danesh head. The younger boys had wrestled obliviously in the kitchen. And in the end, Nani had looked up from some murder book or other, groped in the side table for her hearing aid, and said, "Eh? Did you say something, my handsomest? Nani did not have her magic ear in. Why have you dressed like creature from the Scarf Lagoon? What is happening with your face?" She squinted at him, because her reading glasses turned the non-murder book world into a watercolor smear. Danny knew, even at age 7 3/4, that she hadn't meant the next bit to be cruel, that the poor old thing had only been startled out of the butler staving the mistress's head in with a pipe by her grandson becoming Decibel Jones before her very eyes, and who would ever be prepared for that? But Nani laughed at him. And it was the end of his childhood. Nani had called out to his brothers and sisters, erasing any possibility that they hadn't seen, that plausible deniability was maintained, and that none of this was really happening, and she'd announced to the capacity crowd at the Royal Jalot hallway, "Look who has done an art on himself, our wee Mr. Tate of the modern." He'd frozen, just like now, just like then. He was standing on that worn red rug, and he was going to sing Wagner to the Martian in 100 scarves that smelled like home and love and safety, and everyone was going to laugh in his face, or worse, ignore him like a stain on the ceiling, like he wasn't even there, like he'd never existed in the first place. Mira saved him. The first time of many times. She banged out a riff on her kiddie drums behind him, leaned into her mic and yelled like they were already playing Sold Out Arena, loud enough to blow a dart from 20 to 1, loud enough to stun your old Gormer sober. "We are Decibel Jones and the Absolute Zeros!" Ort St. Ultraviolet opened up the throttle on his Grand's concertina, and for the first time, in front of God and the dartboard and shrimp-flavored crisps and everyone, Decibel Jones began to sing. No one ignored him. But Archibald Arthur Gormley did laugh. He laughed and laughed in total silence while bright-eyed, ambitious Lila Poole patted his shoulder, and tears streamed out from under his glasses, down his booze-bloomin' cheeks, and into the soft darkness of his smoke hole, seeping toward the last part of him that remembered what it was like when he was young and everything in the world sounded just like that. He wept into his single pint. That was chapter 5 of Space Opera. I think we have enough time for me to do. Yes, we do have enough time for chapter 6, which is about the contest. All right. How are you doing out there, darlings? Especially my fellow glamour hobos. You've played that gig, that awful, awful gig. It turned out to be much better than you had expected. Chapter 6. There must be another way. These are the rules, guidelines, regulations of the Metagalactic Grand Prix as agreed to by everybody left standing after the Battle of Vlimus. Number 1. The Grand Prix shall occur once per standard alunizar year, which is hereby defined by how long it takes Aluno Secundus to drag its business around its morbidly obese star, get tired, have a nap, wake up cranky, yell at everyone for existing, turn around, go back around the other way, get lost, start crying, feel sorry for itself, give up on the whole business, and finally try to finish the rest of its orbit, all in one go the night before it's due, which is to say, far longer than a year by almost anyone else's annoyed wristwatch. Number 2. All species currently accepted as sentient must compete. Number 3. All species applying for recognition as intelligent, self-aware, not a huge barrel of dicks, and generally worth the time it takes to get to their shitty planet, wherever that may be, must compete. Number 4. 1 song per species. Number 5. Special effects and stagecrafts of all kinds are encouraged. However, no harm must come to the audience's families, or the linear timelines of any active spectators. Number 6. Please dress accordingly, that is, in the traditional costume of your people. But, like, make it cool, right? Give it a little showmanship. Make an effort. If you do not comply, your representatives will be sentenced to not less than 6 years of hard labor. We're not trying to run the train on time in Drabtown. Number 7. Please provide a written translation of your lyrics to the umpire. And no trying to show off by singing in Alunzish. Stay in your linguistic lane. Your accent will always be terrible. Number 8. New compositions only. No sloppy seconds. Number 9. Judging will be conducted in 2 phases, by audience acclamation and a considered vote by a panel consisting of the representatives of the Great Octave, the new applicant's chaperone species, and an old computer from Kogu, the belligerent's house on planet Yump. Number 10. At no time may anyone cast a vote for their own species, as this is selfish and boring and ruins it for everyone. Looking at you, Alunzar. Number 11. Offensive verses must confine bloodshed to the staging area. Number 12. In the event that an applicant species comes in last, their solar system shall be unobtrusively quarantined for a period of not less than 50,000 years, their cultures summarily and wholly binned, their homeworld mined responsibly for resources, and after a careful genetic reseeding of the biosphere, their civilization precision incinerated from orbit, so we can all sleep at night. Every effort will be made to spare unoffending flora and fauna. The planet's biological processes will be allowed to start over without interference, older, wiser, more experienced, and able to learn from its mistakes. Any new species arising from said ecological matrix may reapply in the future without prejudice. Number 13. In the event that an applicant planet defeats at least 1 species of proven sentience and achieves some rank other than miserably dead last, so to speak, They shall be welcomed with open arms, spores, antennae, tentacles, wings, and other preferred appendages to the untidy lounge room of the extended galactic family. Number 14. In the event that a sentient species finishes in last place, they shall all go home and have a hard think about where they've gone wrong in life and promise never to do it again. Number 15. The final scoreboard shall determine the proportional distribution of all communally held galactic resources for the next cycle. See attached documents for a full explication of said resources. As this is kind of a big deal and has been historically the source of every war other than this one, see Rules 10, 17, and 18. Remember, number 10 was don't vote for your own species. Number 16. The undersigned, all their descendants, and any subsequently discovered civilizations we decide we can stand to talk to at parties unto the heat death of the universe or the next bout of belligerent stupidity makes all this maximally moot, whichever comes first, solemnly swear to play fair, listen with our open minds, vote their feelings, not their ambitions, and not stack the roster with too many rookies all at once, so that everybody gets a real solid chance at not being vaporized if they don't deserve to be. Number 17. Any violators of Rule 16 shall be subject to the gentle ministrations of Rule 12. 18. The winner shall compel their government to pick up everyone else's drink tab, as well as put us all up and pay for the catering when we do this whole thing over again next year. No take-backsies, no changing mobile numbers, no pleading planetary austerity. Take out a loan from the intergalactic happy friendship bank like everyone else, you skinflint. Number 19, and last, try your best and have fun. After the corking incident at the 13th Grand Prix on the Utarak homeworld of Otsov, the subsequent trial, surprise exoneration, and politico-musical ascendancy of the perpetrators, Igneous Lagom Opt, Okafal Avatar Zero, and the entity known as Monad, a 20th rule was added. At the time, the change was so controversial that protesters threatened to blow the 31st Grand Prix out of the sky if the Octave adopted it. However, with the launch of the Keshet Holistic Live Total Timeline broadcast, the effects of Rule 20 proved so unreasonably, voyeuristically, nail-bitingly fun to watch from home that the protesters got completely addicted to viewing parties, and it became the galaxy's favorite guilty pleasure and fundamentally changed the way the game was played, spectated, and won. So, rule number 20. If a performer fails to show up on the night, they shall be automatically disqualified, ranked last, and their share of communal galactic resources forfeited for the year. Do try not to actually kill anyone. It's a dreadful bother to clean up the mess. And that is where we will leave space opera for the night. So we got a bit of a history about Decibel Jones and the Absolute Zeros, their punk rock, punk glam origins, and their humanness, their worry about being ignored, not seen, even so much so that it seems like they never existed at all. That's very real. And I have played those ugly mid-afternoon gigs. Like, whose idea was it? Whose idea was it to do a gig in the middle of the day in the middle of a mall in Ontario? Just like, whose idea? But again, that was Space Opera by Catherynne M. Valente. Please go buy it. Not from Amazon. All right, darlings, I am going to choose a moment in this Star Wars fanfic that was sent along. as a little bit of a titillation for the 4th. May the 4th be with us all. I'm from Kent, Ohio, so May 4th means something different to my history. It's much more about rioting, protesting, Fort Enn in Ohio, all those things. I used to go to the May 4th protest every year to shout about something. I didn't really know what I was shouting about in those days. I was an undergrad. Actually, I wasn't even an undergrad. I was in high school because that's where I went to high school as well. I was mad about something. I didn't know what. I was mad about capitalism. I knew that. That was 2000. That was like 99 through 03-ish in my time. So those are the George Bush years. W, not H. Okay. How do you feel about a duel? Okay. We are on Nar Shaddaa, where the huts are. There's about to be a showdown. Just a piece of it. I promise I'll actually give you a good recording of the whole thing. Who are you? I pressed, growing agitated, and why have you approached me? The strange woman removed her hood. She was human, like me, with pale skin and black hair cut short. A serene expression adorned her youthful face. I am Jedi Master Cato Kislow, Darth Fenris, and I am here to redeem you. If anybody came at me with those words, I would also be freaked out, just saying. I laughed noiselessly. Several heads turned my way, but I did not care. What are you redeeming me from, O wise Jedi? I asked in a mocking tone. From a life of ease and comfort? The Jedi's expression did not change. For 25 years you have lived your life as a Sith, a harbinger of doom. Come with me and live the rest of your days as a beacon of hope, a Jedi. I laughed again and sipped my drink. Is this some kind of joke? Did my old master Darth Rana put you up to this? If so, how is that old Shuta? Shuta? Skutta? Unclear. Who's she betraying now? Or is she abducting another child to be her apprentice? The Jedi shook her head. I came here of my own volition, John Mikado. For an instant, my tongue was caught in my throat. No one had called me by that name except Darth Rana. Well, except Darth Rana and my parents. So they sent you, I instantly decided, whether it was true or not. My weak, pathetic parents, the two who were supposed to keep me safe, but instead allowed themselves to be bested by some skanky-panky Sith Lord. They are not worthy of being Mandalorians, let alone parents. Dun, dun, dun. It's not too late to forgive them, John, said the Jedi, still calm. I gulped down the last of my ale and tossed the empty mug over the railing. I shed my robe, which Naji picked up behind me. My right hand took hold of my lightsaber. The hilt was a thing of malevolent beauty, made of finely polished durasteel steel. It was a near-perfect replica of the saber wielded by the legendary Darth Revan. Its red blade had sealed the fate of many foes. No Jedi. Those two earned whatever miserable fate befell them. I ignited my blade, spun it around myself, and fell into a ready stance. And so will you. I sprinted forward. The force surged into me like a tidal wave crashing into the shore. As I moved, Kislo shed her own robe, drew her lightsaber, and raised her green blade to meet mine. Our blades clashed in a blaze of light and sparks. And so our duel began. The Jedi fought with the Ataru form, jumping and kicking and dodging. I used Juyoi, putting muscle and the force behind every strike. Kislo used Ataru to skillful effect. Time and again, I would swing my blade, expecting to strike a killing blow, only for her to lean out of the way and throw a kick at me. I tried cutting her legs off, but she blocked the attack, then swung at my shoulder, forcing me back into a defensive posture. While I couldn't help but admire her skill, I had to kill this Jedi. If my parents still lived, then killing their pet Jedi master would surely make them think twice about trying to find me. Let's end this quickly, I thought, and force pushed Kislo backwards toward the railing. Not watching to see if she went over, I leapt into the air and somersaulted backwards. When I landed, Kislo was picking herself off the terrace floor. Seeing my opportunity, I raised my empty left hand, then let loose with a deadly stream of force lightning. Kislo raised her own lightsaber just in time to catch the electric attack with her blade, much to my disappointment. She retaliated by force pushing me onto my back, breaking my connection and stopping the flow of force lightning. As I struggled to my feet, Kislo made a force-enhanced jump straight at me, lightsaber ready. I reached out with the force and gripped her by the throat, catching her in midair. I half expected the sudden stop to snap her neck, but instead she hung, suspended for a moment, gasping for breath and dropping her lightsaber. I tightened my force grip. I have you now, Jedi. Then came something completely unexpected. Suddenly, I was also in the air. Kislo force pulled me right over to her, then struck the side of my head with all her might. Pain racked my brain as I fell to the floor, landing hard on my back. I groaned in agony after the impact. Kislo, free of my grip, landed in front of me, her lightsaber back in her hand. I don't want to fight you, John. Your parents want to see their son back. I grunted as I regained my footing. It's too late for me. I'll never be a Mandalorian again. I spotted my lightsaber lying on the floor and force pulled it to my right hand. The doors leading to the inside of the palace rolled open. Close to 24 thugs armed with blasters trotted out, followed by the slithering mass of Vulga the Hutt. Inside, the guests had stopped partying and were backed far into the room. Anyone who had been on the platform during the melee now hurried inside. Why? I wondered. One Jedi should not be any reason to halt a perfectly good party. What is the meaning of this? Zulga asked sternly in Huttese. We're just having a chat, Zulga, I lied. There's nothing to see here. You're swinging lightsabers around on my property? That's a battle, not a conversation. Zulga pointed a stubby hand at Kislo. You there, Jedi, what are you doing here? Kislo sheathed her lightsaber, stepped around me, and bowed to Zulga. Greetings, Lady Zulga, she said with the grace of a princess. I am Jedi Master Cato Kislo of Castle Temple. I am here to bring your business partner, Darth Fenris, back to the light. If that is so, why must you duel in front of my guests? I'll take the blame for that, Zulga, I said to my own surprise. I drew my lightsaber first. Seriously, she was being more aggressive than a hungry rancor. Zulga shook her fat head. Tisk, tisk. Thanks to the two of you, my reputation as the foremost party hostess in this sector is taking a tremendous hit. I am not going to let that go unpunished. Hutts and their almighty reputations, I grumbled under my breath. We promise to leave peacefully, Kislo offered. Master Jedi, it is much too late for that. The overgrown slug locked eyes with me. Fenris, you were a good business partner, but now you are bantha fodder. The thugs aimed their weapons at Kislo and I. And that is where I will leave that teaser. There is more. There's more fighting. There's more duels. There's more surprise. There's more surprise appearances. There's revelations. So it's pretty cool. Thank you so much for sending it. I really appreciate that. As always, darlings, you can send me your fan fiction, your science fiction trash, that you find in the thrift stores. You can send it to me and I will read it. I might not read it live on the show, but I will read it and I will love chatting to you about it. You are welcome, Bill. So it's a redemption tale, and I loved getting it in the mail. It made me very happy. So, darlings, it is now 11:52, which means it is time for me to wrap here and go over to my other gig with my patrons. This is my reminder to you all that I am pleased and privileged to spend these Monday evenings with you. I have a podcast called the Glamour Hobo Field Notes, and if you love the sound of my voice, then you can find it wherever you stream. That's me, right there. Wherever you stream, you can get the Glamour Hobo Field Notes. If you've been nourishing the service, I encourage you, darlings, to tip me on PayPal, find me on Venmo, Carmel-Clavin, or of course, if you want to get in bed with me for just a little bit longer, a little bit more long-term, join the Patreon. Good evening, darlings. Goodbye. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you in the after times.